Good day. My partner Lynn and I, Carlos, would like to welcome you back, in case you have been following our channel, to Faralo Realty and our project, building a house in El Salvador virtually. That's correct. We are building a house in El Salvador while we sit here in Canada. So, if you have been following our channel, then you will know that we are in the process already, about 30% into it, of building this concrete brick house in the mountains of El Salvador. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a few things regarding what affects the building of this house and how the dynamic of the crew that we have working down there works. So here we go. So some of the factors affecting this particular build, number one would be pretty much the elements, rain, because we are building this project, this house during the rainy season. Something that we failed to take into consideration, to be honest. So it's affecting the progress of it somewhat. It's not too bad, but it does affect it. When it rains, it pours. Fortunately, when it rains, it doesn't rain for too long. However, the crew has to basically stop and then wait until everything is pretty much dried again before they can continue. We are talking about, concrete, right? So can't do anything with it while it's raining. So that's one of the biggest factors at this point. As you can see on this particular segment, it stopped raining probably about hour and a half before he shot this video, and so they're now carrying on with doing more bricklaying. Another factor, big time, that affects the progress is the transport of materials. So down there, you pretty much have to hire your own transport unless the builder himself has his own transport facilities, like his own truck or something like that, right? So whenever you go and buy materials, whenever you need to go and get something like rebar, bricks, cement, you name it, you need to take into account the cost of transport, because they do not provide it as per. You may you may find the materials easy, but then you have to deal and wheel with the transportation. Okay, so that's another one. Now, building up in the mountain where we decided to do this, okay, that adds to the factor. Why? Because it's pretty high up and the road up is pretty steep. So most of the transport drivers, they know they know exactly where it is, the area, and so they tend to be a bit hesitant at first. However, that goes away when they come out with a price, and the price includes the effort of actually having to drive all the way up there, and what's going to cost them in fuel. So that's another one, right? Finding the right size of transport to get for example, the brick, the sand, the gravel. That's another one. Okay, so it all comes at a cost, and every place that our builder has gone to get whatever he needs, they're different. So they'll charge a different fee. Normally, to bring a load of sand, a load of bricks, a load of gravel, okay, as a norm, you're going to be paying at the very least $60 to $75 just for the transportation alone. Okay, that's on top of what the load of gravel, for example, is going to cost you. Okay, so in a load of gravel at this point in time is costing us about $125. So there you have it. Also, another factor is the transportation of your workers. So this crew here basically is from all over the place. They're not just from one area, okay? And I'll get into that in shortly. So Most of them do not have their own vehicles. Okay, some of them do have a motorcycle, and that's how they move around. But not it's not all of them. Okay, so for the most part, they go by bus or by other means of transport, which turns out to be pickup trucks. Private pickup trucks who go from one town to the next, from the city to a town, whatever. And so they'll just carry and ferry people in the back, for 75 cents, for example. But for 75 cents, you can go, 20 kilometers, So there you have it. But it is also it's an effort for every worker to get to the work site, and then of course having to go home at the end of the day. So that's another big factor. Now, because we're in the rainy season, right, and it is fairly humid, and well, to us it's humid. To them, it's rather cold, and as you can see from the videos, it's foggy. So they find it cold, okay, up in the mountains, because most of the crews are from the lowlands. Every time they come up, they'll be bundled up, sweaters, toques, you name it. So the factor there is sickness. Okay, they tend to get cold. They get a cold rather easy, and so you have to tend to that. We try to help as best as we can via our builder, to make sure that they have medicine to take, make sure that they have and are taking vitamins while they're working out in the elements, to make sure that they have the proper rain gear at times, so that they can carry on with some of the things. Now, I did say that they normally stop whenever it starts raining, right? But there are that's building the house itself. But there are other things, there are other aspects of the build where they need to carry on. So sickness is a big one, okay? And you have to understand that whenever they need to stop, well, they have to stop. Availability of materials, okay? Well, that's it hasn't been too bad up to this point. Availability mean they are available, but the issue is where is it that they're available? Because being up in the mountain and having to drive down 25, 30 kilometers to get the materials or find the materials, well, that could be 25 kilometers or 30 kilometers either way. So it's finding them. You can find a lot of material in the main warehouses. I'm sorry. Stores, I guess, type of Home Depot, Lowe's, something like that. They do have them down in the city, and they do have a certain type of what do you call them? Well, they're stores, basically supply stores in the smaller towns, but you're paying just a little bit more, just to have that availability, right? So if you want to go to the city and get it from the upscale hardware stores, sure, they're easy available, but you're paying a price for that. Okay, so in regards to bricks, the concrete bricks that you're seeing, things like that, which are the ones that are being used the most. Okay, those ones, not we, the builder, Don Vicente, has to go around, call around, and see what the price is like. So that's another factor. But materials are available. You just need to go and look for them sometimes. Okay, so there you have it. Oh, so but I wanted to say as well is like, for example, those concrete bricks that we are using for this build. Well, you can find them in between 75 cents per unit to down to sometimes 55, 50 cents. It all depends on where you're looking, and so that's another thing that the builder is pretty good at, and he really tries to get the best price. He knows that there's a lot of a lot of material needed, and therefore, try to save a little bit here and there. Well, it's much appreciated, and he knows that. So this particular clip that you're seeing right now, well, this is in the rain, and this is what happens. So they have stopped basically doing the bricklaying, and they're concentrating on in other areas of the build. Okay, but it is raining, and this is what you get. It is what it is. Okay. So in some of the comments, people have been asking, actually posing questions about, how much do you pay for materials? How much are you paying the workers and things like that? Well, materials, I mean, that's easy. It's very easy to find out, especially if you're interested in building in El Salvador. Why do I say that? Because you can actually go to the warehouses internet page themselves and find out what they're charging for. Now, these are the high-end warehouses, stores that I was talking about. Okay, but it gives you a good idea on what the price is going to be, because they're fairly similar in between the stores, the ones that actually advertise online. Now, once you have that price, then you can definitely count on having a few cents. And when I say a few cents, between 5 and 10 cents cheaper if you go out from a different vendor, not a chain. Okay, so that's one way you can find out. Now, for wages, well, it all depends on the dynamic of the contract that you have with the workers. Okay, we're not going to get specifically as to what these particular crew members are getting, because we're going to get into that I think at the end of this project. But what I can say at this point in time is that for this crew, and normally they work in two different teams, two crews. Okay, so you have your main laborers, which are the guys who do all the labor, the hard labor. Okay, moving bricks, moving sand, gravel, etc. Then you have your skilled workers. Okay, the skilled workers are the guys who are doing the bricklaying, doing the parging of the walls, the electricians, the plumbers, and so on. Right, right up to what they call the mechanic, or here we call them the welder. Previously, you saw in the clip, you had seen a guy there who was welding a steel beam. Well, yeah, that's our mechanic or welder, who is actually reinforcing the one of the steel beams that are going to be installed as part of the roof. Okay, but we'll get into that as more videos, as we upload more videos. You'll see. Okay, now the crew is on site by no later than 7 in the morning. Okay, they start working at 7:30. They take about an hour at lunch. Now, in between, they do have a break. I think it's right around 10 o'clock. They take about a half-hour break. They have a bit of a drink or whatever, hot drink, and then they carry on. Their working day ends at 5 p.m. So for these guys, their shift is basically 7:30 to 5 p.m. There you have it. Okay. Now, wages. Well, the wages depend on every site that you go to in El Salvador, and I really do mean they depend, because even in El Salvador, they approach this subject differently everywhere you go. Now, some people, as far as we're told, some people are still doing, the old way, using the old wage system. Meaning, if you're just a laborer, a hard laborer, chances are, you're getting paid between 12 to maybe $14, $15 a day. Okay, so, and that sounds pretty bad, because for the hard work that these guys, do, it just doesn't seem very logical. For us, well, we're not, we don't go that low. We kind of tend to look at standards here in Canada. We don't quite apply the same standard of payment or wages that we do in Canada, because then there'd be no way that we could do this project. But we take a look at what it's like in El Salvador, and we bring it up. So wages can actually uh, depend on the skill, right, of the labor. So if you're just a general labor, an auxiliary as they call it, you can earn between, I said, $12, $15, to $20 per day. The more, so that's the general labor. The more skilled labor, like the bricklayer, for example, okay, the guy who's sparging, things like that, they can actually make $25 a day. Okay, now, and the guy who, for example, the guy who's in charge, the manager, the supervisor, whatever you want to call it, they tend to get paid a little bit more. Okay, they can go up to $35 to $40 per day. So, but how does this work? Okay, the wages. So normally in El Salvador, you have to agree. You have to deal with your crew, the builder, as to how you're going to approach this. Because a lot of times, what they like to do is they like to get paid by project, meaning they'll give a specific, or you can determine a specific amount of time, and they'll come up with an estimate. Well, this is what's going to cost. Okay, so you can go by that, and then of course do your budgeting and do the wages accordingly, of course. Or you can do it by the day. Okay, you pay them by the day. Now that one has pros and cons as well, right? Because if you go and buy the day, well, it pros is that, well, you can set up a specific wage level for them, and you can definitely calculate pretty much what's going to cost at the end of, say, 1 month. However, you also have to take into consideration that a lot of things can happen in that 1 month period, right? Sickness, materials, elements, where it's going to need to stop or pause or anything. And so now you have added one day. So in regards to, for example, paying daily, let's just say, let's talk about paying daily. Let's just say you have, 8 workers, okay, on the site. Well, everything is fine until all of a sudden you have one day where it's raining. Everyone showed up. Everyone showed up to work. However, it's raining. There's not much you can do about it. So what happens is you try to do as best as possible, or the supervisor, the builder, tries to employ them as best as possible, while facing the elements. However, because they're not working on the actual structure, okay, there's only so much I can do, and only so long that he can retain them for on that day. So on a really rainy day, they normally tend to work half day, if that. If there's absolutely no way that they can continue with the structure, and then the rest of the day they go home. So what's the con on that one? Well, the fact that, well, one, the structure was not worked on for half a day, and you end up paying for half a day to the workers. So those are things that you really need to look at, while planning on doing any projects. I think pretty much anywhere. Okay, at the very least, they end up working half day, but not necessarily ensuring that there has been some progress on that specific half day in regards to the structure. So there you have it. Okay, there's a little bit of information. Here we have a guy now. Now that the terrace has been almost completed, almost, okay, and this is the way on how they get the sod in place. And trust me, when we saw this video and a couple of other videos, on how they do the grass planting, it's like, okay, that's different, but guess what? It works. Okay. Now all of this area, I'll tell you in a later video, and we'll show you the entire area of this terrace had to be basically, planted with grass. They call it black grass. That's the type of grass that they use, okay? And they like it because apparently it's really hardy, it really withstands and gets really good rooting, which is what we need. And so this is the terrace, as you can see, and this is where it's at this point in time with the build in El Salvador. They're preparing it again, always ready in case, not in case, for when the rain arrives, because it will arrive. And during rainy season, you can always count and set your watch to it. But for the most part, the terrace is coming along very nicely. So this is our build in El Salvador. At this point in time, we have about 8 personnel working on this site, as you can see. They have already started doing parging in some of the areas, okay? It's coming along. It's really looking more and more like an actual house, okay? And over there you can see the tin shed. Well, that's where a crew of 4 sleeps every day. That's the one crew that comes from quite a bit of a ways, and they decide not to go home. They stay there for the whole week, Monday till Saturday afternoon, and then they go home. But those are their lodgements. So there you have it. This is the build in El Salvador. If you like this video, hit the like button, please. We would really appreciate it. And if you really want to continue knowing about what's going on and how we're doing it, then subscribe. And you'll get notifications about our progress. Now, should you have anything that you need to ask us, any comments, please feel free to do so. We'll always welcome comments. And any questions, we will get to it as soon as we can. So thanks for watching and stay tuned. We will upload more videos soon.